Okay, so here we are again. It is currently 6:20 on November 27th, 2025. Um, I am currently in my bed in my home where I live with my partner, Jonathan, and I have spent the day reminiscing and looking through videos that I took throughout the process of making this EP. This EP that is yours now. Um, this EP that felt incredibly urgent to me to make for years. All of that started around 6 years ago already. Um, so it is absolutely crazy to me that it's out now and it's yours now. And I've been touring with this music and people have heard and experienced it with me. It has touched people. It became a safe haven for me. Um, and so I felt like it was time to kind of tell you guys the story of how all of this came to life and tell you the origin story of the Bed Ties because all of this came full circle for me. And so I would like to take you along this journey with me. Okay, so as some of you might know, my name is Maya Maria. I am currently 24 years old. No. When this comes out, I'll have turned 25, which I'm very excited about. Um, but yeah, my name is Maya Maria. I make music. I'm an art director, and I just create and sing, and yeah, that's just me. And I grew up after Salin, which was a really nice childhood, sometimes quite chaotic. I now realize that I might be slightly autistic. Overall, creative, sensitive child. Then, when I was around 13, I became physically sick. I don't really talk about what disease I had often, and it's not because it's a secret. I had Lyme disease, but it's more because I think for me, I had quite negative experience with what that name meant. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. Even the regular doctors didn't really know what to do with me. Um, and so, all over, that word for me has a bit of a negative weight to it. And I know that things changed now, but I don't want to be the girl that had Lyme disease. I want to be the girl that had issues physically, mentally, and turned her life upside down and created magic. um, but yeah, as I said, it's not a secret. And I think for people that have had the same experience, it might be even nice to know. Um, so yeah, but basically, what it meant for me was that from 13 on, I was basically tied to the bed. Hence the name, the bed ties. Um, I was just, I had no energy. I couldn't handle light for a long time because the bacteria was in my brain. I couldn't read properly. Forming proper sentences was harder. Um, I couldn't walk for big chunks of those years. So I was in a wheelchair for a while, and yeah. Overall, it was a very dark and scary time. Um, there are certain parts of that time period that I might not ever talk about just because it is a very heavy and traumatizing time for not only me but also my family. And yeah, some things are just supposed to stay in the family. But yeah, overall, difficult. Um, I think what made it most difficult for me was that I had to go into the alternative circuit to figure out how to get healthy. And the doctors were also like, we don't know if we can help you. We can try stuff, but we can't guarantee that it's ever going to get better. Um, and so, what that meant for me was that I was a teenager with no people around, just me in my bedroom, no energy. I couldn't do anything. So it was me, a bed, four walls, and not really any hope of a future. And what that mentally does to a person is kind of scary, because I shut off any sense of dreaming, of ambition. Wow. It's just an explosion outside. Um, but yeah, I became just like a shadow of myself more and more. Um, at some point, I decided to go into therapy because I noticed that I was starting to get depressed. I mean, it had been years already, and yeah, it wasn't getting better. And so I realized that I physically couldn't fix anything, but I had to change something mentally for me to exist and survive it as a soul, as a person. And so I started to get very focused on my self loving journey, self care rituals. I started reading books, watching videos on how I could care for myself and start loving the body that I was in, even though it seemed like my body was my enemy. Um, that entailed me taking nude portraits, doing smile gaze meditations, and just, yeah, taking care of the body that was mine, exploring it, enjoying it. Masturbation was a big part of it, which is also why I wrote a song about it. Um, and slowly but surely, I started to mentally feel better. And then at some point, we did some treatments, and they worked. And I slowly started to get my energy level back. And then I was left with this question of what the fuck am I gonna do now? Because I was not prepared to prepare to get my life back. I had already quit school as a 13-year-old because I couldn't read, and it was all sorts of issues. And so I didn't have any education. I didn't know what I was going to do if I were to get healthy, which happened slowly but surely with the years. It got better and better. But yeah, then at some point I got a coach, and he basically just asked me, like, look, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do? And that for me was like an impossible question because I had shut off any dreams, any faith in myself and my future. But he got me thinking, and this flip switched in my brain where I was like, okay, I basically am now getting a second shot at life that I didn't think I would get. And the main thing that I always wanted as a kid was become a singer. As a kid, I was confident. I knew I'm going to be a singer. This is my one dream. I'm going to make it reality. But I tucked it away because I grew up in a place where it was like, okay, this is not something that people do. It's like, that's like some idiotic child's dream. It's not actually something that people make come true. But I realized that my voice was also the thing that kind of got me through. My voice and my artistic expression were the things that got me through this dark period. And so I realized that's kind of the most important thing to me. And I realized that if I were to die, I mean, I will, but like when I die, I will regret not taking the second chance to make my dreams come true. At least try, like for fuck's sake, at least try, at least give it a shot. So from that point on, I was just like fueled with this insane dedication to just make it come to life. And then I met a boy. I met a boy that turned out to be my first love. He was a rapper, producer, creative all over, and he had faith in me. And he kind of gave me the confidence, like this extra little push that I needed. I am not a big fan of saying, oh, we need men to kind of make us feel confident. But for me, in my story, it definitely helped. That this person that let's not, like, it doesn't even matter that he was a man. It was just a person, another human that I felt like saw me for who I was, that matched with me on an artistic level. And that saw that I had potential, that I had this spark, you know? And so I decided to move to Groningen with him to start my life here and figure it out along the way. Turns out we broke up a week after we moved to Groningen together. That it turned out to be a really long, messy, on and off situationship relationship. Um, but it was a kind of a good thing because this meant that I had the push to move to Groningen, and then I found myself in Groningen on my own, and I figured it out somehow. I didn't really have experience of making friends because, mind you, I kind of skipped my whole teenage years. Um, so all of that experience was gone, and I went from being a child to figuring out how to be an adult. But I managed and I made friends. I put myself out there. It was fucking scary as fuck. Um, but I don't know. I explored. I joined projects and courses on music to get experience and network and kind of better understand who I was, what I wanted to make, um, and just practice. And yeah, like time went on and I experienced more things, shitty things, good things. And then at some point, I met Leguzu, my lovely, lovely team. I was a bit sneaky in this sense. I mean, or just smart, but I had my eyes on them basically because in my journey of figuring out the music scene in Groningen, I also discovered that being a 19, 20-year old girl that was perceived as pretty because I was skinnier than ever, I was expressive, I was kind of mm, wanting to showcase beauty over anything. Um, I attracted also people that wanted more than just make music with me. I was in some unsafe situations, and so I was quite picky in who I trusted to start my music journey with. Um, and I had my eyes on Legusu because I felt like they were professionals. They gave me good vibes. Um, and then at some point, they asked me to participate in this project in which they wanted to put together a band and make an alternative hip hop album in Dutch. Initially, I wanted to say no because I was like, I don't really have ambition to make Dutch music. I am Dutch, but the language has never felt that close to my heart. In my time being isolated and sick, I wasn't really communicating with many people, so I was mainly observing English content. I was even speaking English to my family at some point, and my love life was mostly in English, so I didn't have ambition to sing in Dutch. Also found out that it's really different. It's really hard. Like I don't know. It's different. But I ended up doing it because I was like, okay, maybe I'll get close to them. You know, a little bit, yeah. But I ended up doing it. I had the best time ever. It was so good for my progress as a person, as an artist. I learned so much. I learned how to be comfortable on stage. I learned how to put my own voice and identity in a project that wasn't like fully me. I learned how to take small parts so I could still have my sound be showcased in a genre that's not even my thing, which I think is very valuable to learn what small things you can do or showcase that make something you. Um, and then at some point, my lovely manager now, Eco, called me to the office and he was like, look, girl, we have been wanting to manage an artist and we haven't found the right match, but we think maybe you might be it. Um, and so let's just see what happens. Let's have a trial of a year and see where it leads us. And so the first year we kind of just explored together who am I? What's my sound? What do I have to say? What do I want to say? And for me, there was this burning need almost, um, of wanting to take my story of being sick and process it through music. Because after I got better and I moved to Groningen, I kind of, in order to deal, I think I kind of pushed away this trauma and this whole experience because I felt like I had to find a way to move on and start a life. And I felt like it was too much baggage to drag with me to start something fresh. So I tucked it away carefully, but I still noticed that it was very much in my way of being able to be happy. I mean, your teenage years shape you, and for me, the teenage years were just very dark. I need a second. Yeah, they were very dark and quite lonely. So I didn't feel ready to open all that shit up and look it in the eyes. Um, but somehow I felt like I wanted to do that once I was in a position where I could also translate it through music. And so that's what I did. Um, when we started making this EP, the one that you are all able to listen to right now, I decided to simultaneously start therapy, to start the process of looking that in the eye. And it made me feel safer knowing that I was going to be able to take the things that would come up during therapy because I knew it was going to explode in my face sometimes. But knowing that I could take that, the shit that came out, the toxic that came out, and just process it through sound and then turning it into something beautiful that would last was very soothing to me. And also very beautiful now because I think for me personally, like, of course, it's my dream that people can now listen to it and feel something with it, and that it might heal you guys in even the slightest way or makes you feel held. But for me, it's also just a lifetime of soothing because I know that this experience, I mean, it was years, it's shaped me. Like, it's gonna be with me forever, but I know that I can always look back and be like, okay, I processed it in this time period and I made it into something kind of compact, you know? Um, and I don't know, that gives it for me so much more air. It feels like it's full circle now. Um, I'm like rambling through all of it. And so we started the process of creating this EP. Lake Wuzu already has producers. It has both Iko and Paul, and honestly Marcel. But still, we wanted to see if we wanted to expand the team with another producer that was not their in-house person, you know? And so Iko set me up with a bunch of different people to try and find a match. We soon found out that I am a very specific type of creator, because I need to be comfortable whenever I make something by myself. I need there to be candlelight. I need to be seated on the floor and connected to the ground. I need there to be incense, dimmed lights, preferably meditation music. And that's not really how most people work. So the first few sessions were with lovely people, but I just couldn't get into the space of feeling comfortable enough to create. And so I was about to give up and just be like, let's just do it with the people we already have here. You know, I'm kind of done of trying. And then Iko said, okay, I have one more try. I thought of a guy. I can't believe I thought of him sooner. But I think it's a perfect match. So please give me one more shot. And if you don't want it, we will quit this search. So I gave it one more shot. And as soon as I fucking stepped in that studio, I knew that it was gonna work out. Because he invited Otsar Damsma to the studio in Leeuwarden Lekuzu. And we step inside the studio and Otsar goes like, okay guys, would it be okay if we just put all of the equipment on the floor? Preferably with the dim lights dimmed, maybe some candlelight, so we can work while sitting on the floor. And I was like, Lord, praise the Lord. We found the guy. And so yeah, we had the first session, and in that first session, we actually made the demo for Way Back. And for me, that is still the most magical song on the whole EP. It's most personal to me. And so after that, I was just instantly like, yeah, this is what we need. It felt safe, it felt comfortable, still like challenging because this guy is a motherfucking genius. Um, so it was challenging for me to feel like I was equipped and skilled enough to be able to match up to the level, you know? Because I've had a lot. I think I also said it in one of the other vlogs, but I have this massive manipulator in my brain that sometimes is convinced I'm just not good at what I'm doing. It would always tell me, especially at the beginning of this process, I was convinced I was a bad writer because I wasn't educated, you know? Um, and so, yeah, for me, it was really good to be able to be in the studio with somebody where I really looked up to the talent and to the skills, um, and just trust that I could match the magic, you know? So after that, we decided this was the man we're gonna start this journey now together. And we decided to, or I decided that I wanted to organize a writing camp on my home birth island, Terschelling, because I felt like I wanted to create a bubble as safe as possible for me to unpack whatever was gonna come up. So we planned it. At the time, I was dating my first ex boyfriend, B again. Um, as I said, we were on and off. And throughout the years, I built this really strong wish to make this EP together with him because he was kind of like my creative partner. Um, we made a lot of things together and we both really looked up to each other in that sense. And I looked really up to him. Um, so for the first writing camp, he was still there. But right after we broke up, like 2 days after. And it's really interesting to me because looking back now, all of the seeds that we made during this first writing camp, a lot of them are very much about heartbreak. It was like I kind of felt it coming, but it's still beautiful for me now, even though we have been long separated. It's still beautiful to me that he is part of like the first base of this project, and that after that I had to have faith in myself and let go of this idea that I needed a man to be valuable, and figure it out by myself and hear my voice purely. I think that is already super symbolic for the process I've been through throughout the past few years. And so I kind of like that that's part of it. But yeah, we went to the island. It was lovely. My parents left the place and we had the whole thing to ourselves, which is so sweet. I have the most supportive parents in the whole world. Bless them. Really, truly, 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 truly. Um, Man, they've also been through a lot with me. So yeah, that means a lot. But we had the house to ourselves. We built a little studio setup on the ground of the living room, and we just spent the days there. Oh, every morning during breakfast, we would read a chapter from the Rick Rubin book. I forgot the name, but I mean, I'm sure you guys know it, or I'll just write it here. My manager, Iko, would read us a chapter every morning to set the tone and make us feel like this is just free space, no judgment. We're just gonna, we called them seeds. We're just gonna create seeds, and we will later see if we want to do anything with it. But for now, it's just pure exploration because we didn't know the sound we wanted yet. Everything was open, so we would just improvise and play and record the most random things, just so we could figure it out along the way. We would I was making fires. I was finding my confidence in making fires, providing, in that sense, the heat. I was having so much fun with making my fires. Yeah, also with singing, and yeah, we swam and we were just existing together, flowing together. It's still one of the most magical times ever for me. I love looking back at it. Um, and at some point, I remember very vividly that we planted the seed of the way the body moves, because in the process of making these seeds and improvising, I needed a break because I felt like a heavy emotion was coming up, and in that time, I still thought, okay, this is too much. To exist in a session like that's not supposed to be. I'm supposed to be professional, so I needed a break, and I started writing in my diary on the couch, and Iko next to me started playing the guitar. And so he was playing and playing, and I started writing, and it was quite sad lyrics. And at some point, I just started to sing over his guitar. Um, and then at some point, I sang a line that was Ministry of Far Gone Youth, which is now one of the interludes because we used that original take. Um, but yeah, it was very much about my feeling of when I was a teenager and how I kind of felt like I was given up by society because I wasn't passing the test, I wasn't going to school, I wasn't valuable, and people didn't really have faith that I was going to be anything anymore. Um, so I was singing about that, but it was just the most magical moment. Somehow, it was just pure. Um, so after we finished playing, we just looked at each other. We were like, "Did anybody record this?" Um, and I found out that my phone was still recording everything, and Otzer also recorded it. So after we took a little break, but Otzer was on his laptop doing things, and at some point we hear that he just turned this super sad song or whatever melody lyrics, and he turned it into a sample that sounded absolutely euphoric. And Iko was like, "Damn, this kind of sounds like you're seeing the way the body moves." And I was like, oh my god, yes. And I thought it was so, it felt almost spiritual because it was just, again, such symbolism for this whole thing where I wanted to take these more heavy experiences and turn it into something healing and beautiful. And this was exactly that. He made it sound like the most joyful thing on the planet. And so we turned it into a seed. We like built some stuff around it. I did some vocal improvisation and we recorded it, and we were all in heaven because we were like, we just created magic. And after that, we were so high just on life and the experience of it, so excited that we started listening to, they made this record of kind of like the history of music of the world, basically. And they put it up in space in case aliens find it or whatever. But the golden record, is it called? I don't know. I'll put it here again. But we started listening to that shit, and we were like acting like we were high on drugs. We were like dancing around the room and the garden and dancing around the fire and just crawling. Just, I don't know. It was crazy, honestly, but just the best vibes. And it made us closer together. And it was just really cool that that song, that is about the way the body moves. I don't know, made that happen. And so yeah, we had the best time over there. We planted the seeds, and then we could take these demos home with us again. And so we could take the demos to the studio. And we went back to the studio in Lake Wuzu. I would spend weekends there in their bed and breakfast, so we could, yeah, spend the whole days just making music together. Otter and I, Paul and I, all three of us, um, we were expanding the seeds that we had made on the island, but we were also making new things, completely going into it without any expectation. Um, and it was just so much fun to slowly see my vision of who I wanted to sound like, what I wanted to sound like as an artist, come to life. And that's also how I found out that for me, the music making process kind of starts with a concept and a mood board, because I need to start with color schemes and shapes. And once I have that, that captures the feeling for me. So I would show up to the studio with mood boards of like, this is how it should sound like. you know, these these images is what it should feel and sound like. Um, and it worked out. I mean, they understood their assignment. So it was really cool to also be part of the whole process, because I could never let go and just tell somebody to produce something and then sing over it. I need to be part of the first building blocks, even though I don't have the knowledge of production, like I don't have any musical theory. I just need to feel the core of the track and the first building blocks, and they need to be right. They need to feel right. So it was really cool to work with people that were so professional, also understood theory and everything, and kind of, I don't know, match my way of making and creating with that, which I think turned out to be magical. I'm gonna say magical a lot, but it's just how I feel about this whole process. Um, it was just a magical experience. Um, and yeah, we made the songs. At some point, they started to sound more and more like actual songs. Um, we recorded the vocals. I spent a lot of time in the vocal booth. It was also really cool to me because Otzer was there most of the time for um, the sessions in which we recorded my vocals. And I would just be in the vocal booth, and Paul and Otzer would be on the other side of the glass, being like, okay, what if you try this harmony? You should try this little melody in the background. And just me and my improvising of just humming and like harmonies and their very specific ideas as well were, it's just such a good match. It was so much fun to build everything, and for them to push me as well to sing higher than I've ever sang before, fucking the way it should be. I was in the vocal booth and I was like, this is insane. And Paul was like, I think we should go higher. I think we should. I was like, I can't. He was like, just scream and fuck around. And I found out I could do it. And it's really cool because when we recorded it, it was like really pushing it. I was really pushing it. But now in the process of performing it all the time, it really trained my voice. So now it really feels more casual to sing. I'm just like, okay, I can do that. When before I was like, fuck no, who thought of this? So yeah, just really cool. Like to work with people that also push you. Um, but at the same time, they made me feel so comfortable and fucking safe, which was also mind blowing to me. Very healing to be working with a team of men that just made me feel completely respected and heard in my vision, my opinions, my boundaries, that even maybe saw my boundaries before I saw them myself. Um, Iko is also fucking marvelously good at that. Whenever he senses that I'm getting tired or exhausted, overwhelmed, he will just say, hey, is it possible that you need a break? You need a moment? You need a nap? Maybe take a week off? Very blessed with that. I know it's very rare, and so I definitely count my blessings. I'm eternally grateful that this is the space where I got to unpack this story and unpack myself as a person, as an artist. Um, yeah, in safe hands. And with people that also just have a crazy good creative vision and also that matched mine, because I can be stubborn. Like I have my ideas and my opinions, and I don't like straying away from them, because then I think you lose the core of what you want to say and what you believe in. So yeah, it was really cool to work with people that respect that in me and also honor that in me and applaud it, and just add to it. That want to add to it and participate. But all of the songs that we made started with melody and production, and so most of them had some lines that were kind of telling the core of what the song was about. So for me, it was always very clear what demo was about what topic. I had that very clear in my head. But there weren't that many lyrics. And that was because I was very insecure about my writing. I was very stuck. I was like, I don't know what I sound like, because before that I had mostly written more poetry type of thing, like a mix between diary pages and poems. Um, but I also had this really high standard for myself of being the most poetic artist ever. Um, and I also kind of felt like I really wanted the songs to be experimental and challenging in production and melody, but I also wanted it to be annoyingly catchy. I said that from the start. I was like, I want it to be experimental, alternative, but I need it to be so annoyingly catchy that people's brains will want to take it and slurp it up and that they'll want to hear it again, you know? Because I think in pop music, it's just so beautiful that it's like a whole different language, and like it's really a magical ability to be like, okay, this is a melody that's so catchy that it'll be stuck in people's head and that it's easy to take in, you know? It's about that. It needs to be fun and easy to take in for your brain, because that will just make you feel happy listening to it. Even if you're like, I don't know if I would listen to this genre usually, but like it's kind of soothing as well in a way, you know? So I wanted to have some catchy melodies in there, but still explore and experiment and be alternative and weird, you know? And we did that. Um, but I was still kind of pushing away the process of finishing the lyrics. And so what I did was, after we laid the base for all the songs, I locked myself in my house for a week. I really did. I think it was like January or February at that point. It was cold, I remember. And I just decided to be in my house for a week. I mean, I would go out for summer, but I didn't have anything planned. And I would sit on the floor, meditate, burn incense, burn candles, be cozy as can be, and I would write. I would write on my diary pages. I would flip through my diary pages that I had been writing the past months, and I would cut out sentences and parts that felt important. And then I put everything on a pile on the floor, and I started going through them and being like, okay, this written down story line is matching the topic of this song. So I started to separate them. Uh, and then I would go through them and say, okay, this line seems important. Um, Maybe I can use it. And so slowly I started building what I wanted to say. I started building what I wanted to say, and I started realizing I shouldn't overcomplicate the lyrics. If simple is what comes out, then simple is just purely the soul, and that's what it should be. You know, don't try to sound cool or whatever. um, just speak in the language that your heart wants to speak right now. Um, and I think that was the breaking point where I was like, okay, I think I'm finding my way with this, and I think it sounds beautiful to me. And that's all I need. Because if it sounds beautiful to me and if it touches me, I'm sure it will touch other people because at least it's true. It's truthful to who I am. Um, and so the song slowly became finished, and I would have calls with Paul just to go through the lyrics that I wrote and be like, maybe change like the last word so it fits better, it sounds more pleasing to the ears, which was really cool to me to be able to go through that with somebody and explain what the words meant. So yeah, shout out to Paul. That really meant a lot to me. Yeah. And so yeah, that's how this EP came to life. Um, with a lot of love, a lot of heartbreak, but overall, it was the most healing thing I could have ever imagined. And I'm super grateful for everybody that helped me like make this whole thing come to life. Um, you you can't imagine how much this meant for me as a person, as a soul, as an artist. I'm really proud of what we've made. I'm really proud of the team that's connected to it. They're all, each and every single one of them are gorgeous humans. I'm so glad that I got to know you, and that we got to create this together, and that you wanted to help me in making my dream come to life, because that's really what this is. This is years and years of dreaming coming to fruition and becoming a piece of art. And it's been really beautiful for me to be able to perform this music this past year, because it's such a like because it truly came from a place of isolation and believing that I was alone in the world and I was the only one to feel these things, go through these things. I actually, through making this, also for the first time ever met a person, a woman, that kind of went through almost the exact same thing. Very specific details that I won't share with you, unfortunately, but that match and the same time period in our life and everything. And it's just crazy because I only would have met her. I only met her because I faced these fears of the past and turned it into something um, beautiful for other people to experience too. Um, so it's been beautiful to sing it for you guys to hear it and feel something with it and hear that it makes you feel something. Because when I was writing it, I just knew that it made me feel something, but of course, you'd never know if it's gonna do anything at all for other people. I mean, it might as well have been the opposite, that people were just like, oh, I don't know what this girl did. I don't know what she did, but this ain't it. Um, but every time after the show, people come to me and they say that they feel moved, they feel held, they got emotional. It was like a breath of fresh air. It made them feel hopeful. And that's like the biggest gift that an artist could wish for. And that makes me emotional because I'm an emotional person. Um, but yeah, the connection that came into my life through expressing this and expressing this story and daring to say things out loud um, is something I never dared to dream of. And being able to live my dream, um, like I exceeded my dreams already. As I said, I didn't think I was going to make it at some point, many points. And the fact that I'm living a life, I'm a 25-year-old woman now, thriving, loving, having friends, having art that she gets to perform, that I get to perform, share with people, that makes people feel something, that creates connection between me and them, you, is just absolutely insane. I'm gonna have to create new dreams now. Um, all I know is that I'm really fucking excited that now this whole project is there for you to experience. Now, with a little bit of backstory, I talked a shit ton. Um, but yeah, thank you for listening. Truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for listening. Thank you for taking me in as I come. Maybe I trigger you. Maybe I make you feel welcome, invite you to feel something. I don't know, but the fact that you are here already says that something is happening, you know? And I'm really excited for more and more to keep happening. I am already breeding on my next project. It's been growing in my womb, and I'm fucking excited because this is gonna be another upgrade. Um, but for now, please enjoy this. Um, know that it's been crafted with love, and I hope it makes you feel something.